大変です、大変です。
はい
はい。
3号機、多分水蒸気だと爆発が。
Japan is restarting one of the nuclear reactors that was shut down since 2011 Fukushima disaster.
Nuclear energy, which are also called as atomic energy, is the powerful energy released by change in the nucleus of atom. Nuclear energy can be used to generate electricity. There are two kinds of atomic reaction that can create nuclear energy, which are nuclear fusion and nuclear fission. In nuclear fusion, atoms are joined together, while in nuclear fission, atoms are split apart. But nuclear power plants do not have capability to produce energy from nuclear fusion safely. In nuclear fission, uranium is used as fuel. Nuclear reactors are machines to produce electricity and heat by creating and controlling fission reaction. The technology of reactor depends on the type of coolant used. There are several types of power reactor, but only light water reactor is widely used. Light water reactor is the power reactor that are cooled and also a moderator using ordinary water to keep the system cool. There are two major types of light water reactor, which are boiling water reactor or known as BWR and pressurized water reactor or known as PWR. The difference between BWR and PWR is the boiling method for steam. PWR constitute the large majority of the world's nuclear power plant. In a PWR, the primary coolant is water maintained under very high pressure so that the coolant reach a high temperature without steam formation within the reactor. Heat transported out of the reactor core by the primary coolant is then transferred to a secondary loop connected to a steam generator. BWR used for the generation of electrical power. In BWR, primary coolant water is maintained at lower pressure so that boiling and steam formation occur within the reactor core itself, which serves directly as the steam generator, while secondary loop and heat exchanger are not present.
Components of a nuclear reactor and its function. A nuclear reactor basically consists of fissile material or nuclear fuel, reactor core, moderator, reflector, control rods, and coolant. For fissile material, most reactors in operation today use natural uranium as fuel. In order to use uranium as a fuel for certain types of nuclear reactor, the percentage of uranium-235 must be enriched to contain around 3% of isotope U-235. This naturally occurring uranium is processed into small pellets, then the pellets are sealed into fuel rods, which are welded to form a fuel bundle. Typically, more than 200 of these rods are bundled to form a fuel assembly. In order to allow nuclear fission to proceed in a controlled manner, control rods are placed within the fuel rods. These control rods are used to control the fission chain reaction by absorbing the thermal neutrons. Control rods are generally made from cadmium, boron, or hafnium, which are good absorbers of slow neutrons. The control rod can be moved up and down to control the fission rate of uranium. Within the core, a material called a moderator is used to slow down the speed of the neutron released from fission for sustainable nuclear fission reaction. Ordinary water and heavy water are the commonly used moderator. Next, the neutron reflector is built surround the fuel moderator assembly and its main purpose is to control the leakage of released neutrons by leading them toward the core. The reflector acts like a mirror and reflects the neutron back into the core to maintain fission. A nuclear reactor also consists of a cooling system. The cooling system removes the heat generated in the reactor core. Ordinary water, heavy water, and liquid metal are the commonly used coolant. The coolant passes through the tube containing the fuel bundle and carries the heat from the fuel rod to the steam generator through the heat exchanger. The steam runs the turbine to produce electricity in a power reactor. This is how the electricity is generated from a nuclear reactor.
When you hear the words nuclear energy, what do you think of? Perhaps an image comes to mind of a nuclear bomb or a nuclear energy crisis like Fukushima. If this is your image of nuclear power, you might be surprised to learn that nuclear energy is actually considered one of the most environmentally friendly forms of energy production in the world. With fewer emissions and greater utilization, there are many pros and cons of nuclear energy to consider. Firstly, one of the most important advantages of nuclear energy is that it is a reliable source of electricity. Nuclear power may be created at any time of the day, unlike solar and wind energy, which require the sun to be shining or the wind to be blowing. This means that a nuclear power plant can produce electricity continuously and there will be no energy production delays. Secondly, nuclear power plants do not emit any carbon dioxide. This is a significant benefit over traditional energy sources like fossil fuels, which emit enormous amounts of carbon dioxide into the environment. One of the primary causes of climate change is excess carbon dioxide. As a result, the lower the carbon and greenhouse gas emissions, the better will it be. According to the Nuclear Energy Institute, nuclear power generation reduces the release of 528 million metric tons of carbon dioxide into the environment per year. Thirdly, nuclear energy has a high energy density, as the amount of energy generated in a nuclear fission reaction is predicted to be 10 million times larger than that released when fossil fuels are burned. As a result, the amount of nuclear fuel required in a nuclear power plant is far less than that required in other power plants. This contributes to nuclear energy's low cost of production. Thousands of kilowatt hours of energy can be produced by a single nuclear power station. In conclusion, the fears of nuclear energy must be weighed against the dangers and realities of global warming. Modern nuclear energy technology is a carbon-free solution to the world's expanding electricity demand. To make our future a healthier, safer place for everyone, while still providing enough energy to meet our everyday requirements, switching to alternate energy sources such as nuclear energy is one important step toward this future. Nuclear energy is a bargaining industry that provides business and households around the world with cost-effective energy solutions. Nuclear energy will become safer and more efficient than it has ever been because of ongoing technological advancements.
We know that nuclear energy provides good advantages. However, nuclear energy also can cause disadvantages. Okay, for the first disadvantages, it will cause bad impact toward the environment. Okay, for example, uranium is needed for the nuclear reactors, and the mining of the nuclear reactors will release arsenic and radon. Okay, arsenic and radon are very dangerous to the people's health that stays near the power plant. Okay, and the second one is the pollution that caused by nuclear energy, which is thermal pollution. Okay, for thermal pollution, basically nuclear power plant are built near to the body of water such as lake and sea. Okay, and the water is needed, the cooling water is needed to condense the steam back to the water. Okay, this process will increase the temperature of the water, and when the hot water are released back to the lake or sea, the nature of the lake or sea will change because of the hot water, and the hot water that reach almost 100 degrees will disturb the habitat of aquatic life. Okay, for the second disadvantages, even though nuclear energy does not produce any dangerous gases such as carbon dioxide, but then nuclear energy produce radioactive waste, which is very dangerous to human. There are some challenge happen on discovering how to keep the radioactive waste. The radioactive waste keep increasing, and there is no long-term storage for it. This will cause a problem to the toxic nuclear waste, and if this will keep happening, it will cause a bad impact to the surrounding area. Okay, for the third advantages, nuclear energy is a non-renewable energy, and uranium is the limited source that is used for the nuclear reactors as a fuel. Okay, uranium need to be mined, and the amount of it will decrease. It can turn out there will be no uranium within a human lifetime, and experts assume that the source of uranium for now will be worth 200 years more. But if the people are too dependent on nuclear energy, the uranium might be decreased faster, and this will cause a problem later.
To answer the question, is there any nuclear power plant in Malaysia? The answer is no. Is there any effort to develop a nuclear power plant in Malaysia? The answer is yes. Currently, the energy supply in Malaysia depends heavily on natural gas, followed by oil and coal. The only problem with this kind of energy supply is it affects negatively on our environment with the emission of greenhouse gas like carbon dioxide and methane. So it is crucial for Malaysia to develop a new clean energy supply that is safe for the environment to fulfill increasing energy demand. Nuclear energy is considered one of the cleanest energy sources on the earth. Many developed countries like the United States, China, and Japan have used nuclear energy sources. In Malaysia, the effort to build a nuclear power plant started in 1994 with the establishment of the Malaysian Institute for Nuclear Technology Research, MINT. But since then until 2005, this institute failed to address any issues concerning nuclear energy. In 2006, MINT was renamed into Malaysian Nuclear Agency, Nuclear Malaysia, with a nuclear missions and objectives regarding nuclear energy issues. Currently, Malaysian Nuclear Agency has collaborated with the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, MOSTI, to prepare a proposed National Nuclear Technology Policy (DTNN 2030), which outlines strategic goals and direction for the development of nuclear science and technology in Malaysia. Even though Malaysia is located outside the Ring of Fire, meaning that Malaysia is not susceptible to external hazards such as volcanic eruptions, typhoons, and earthquakes, in order to successfully build a nuclear power plant in Malaysia, Malaysia requires expertise from a nuclear-rich country to build nuclear reactors and maintain them. Other than that, Malaysia needs to fix Malaysian negative perception towards nuclear power to ensure the nuclear power plant can be successfully built in Malaysia.
Nuclear buildings have been made with strong resistance. Their inability to tackle the challenge of storing high-level radioactive waste has affected nuclear power's public image. Several factors appear to be influencing the Malaysian and public's negative perception of nuclear power stations. One of them is concerns about the health effects of low-level radiation. Next, the concerns that there is no safe way to dispose of high-level waste. Besides, numerous people objected to the growth of nuclear energy, especially after the nuclear power plant disaster in Japan, which forced many countries to face down or stop their nuclear power plants. Even nuclear energy received a lot of negative perception among Malaysians nowadays. Malaysians should be aware of the need for alternate energy sources. The world's fossil fuel sources are rapidly diminishing, putting Malaysia's future energy security in risk. Nuclear power is being considered as one of the most methods to address any future difficulties that may endanger the country's rising economy. Nuclear as a source of energy has its own set of benefits, thus it should be assessed with an open mind rather than an authoritarian approach. So after doing the investigations, we can conclude that the need for energy looks to be growing all the time, particularly in light of Malaysia's projected economic progress. The majority of demand is currently met by non-renewable sources such as fossil fuels. However, because these resources are readily available in the country, this tendency is expected to continue over the next decade or two.